Here we go. We're going live. All right, all right. All right, all right. Hello, everyone. I'm super excited about today's live Dynamite events. We've got a very festive one today. We've got Amber Penrose on the line, the owner of Moxie Search. Like, guys, you guys have no idea how excited I am to talk about Amber and like in front of her on top of that. So I talk about Amber behind her back all the time, but it always in a good way. She's an amazing, phenomenal recruiter who's just got such a fantastic way of coming to market and making her story known. And that's what this is all about today: is storytelling and getting your story out there to effectively do BD. But before we get started, I want to welcome you all to Live Dynamite events. I'm your host, Will McGee, and I run a company called Recruiting with Dynamite. And Recruiting with Dynamite is on a mission to grow recruiters and their business in the most modern way possible with modern go-to-market strategies and knowledge-packed events and a community that we call the Boom Lab. So if you guys are interested in joining Live Dynamite events and future Recruiting with Dynamite events, I would encourage you going to recruitingwithdynamite.com and get started on our newsletter, be a subscriber. Also, this Live Dynamite event is actually sponsored by Sendoso. So let's take out the hassle of your holiday corporate gift giving this year and use Sendoso, because it's so easy to send a gift to anyone, anywhere, at any time, and you don't have to be the creep that asks for their address. So it's a fantastic way to do this, and I think they have one of the best products on the market for gift giving. So definitely check them out and reach out to them. But without further ado, we've got Amber on the line. How you doing today, Amber?
I'm doing great. I was really tempted to turn on the lights on my Christmas jumper, but I was like, no, that's too far, Amber.
You know what? I want it. Can we get a little light sparkle or something? Is if you got the batteries for
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea where the button is.
it.
So let's
That's
skip that
fantastic.
idea.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Amber, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the community and to anybody who doesn't know you. If you don't, you need to follow her. But Amber, go ahead.
Yeah, so to anyone that I have not had the pleasure of meeting just yet, I am Amber. And I've been in recruitment for, and this is crazy because I was actually figuring it out the other day, and it's not even been 6 years yet, although it feels like about 60. And I'm sure we all feel like that in this industry, especially because the average tenure is short. And I think anyone that's been in this space for like 3 or more years is considered an expert. So that's what I'll call myself. But yeah, started my journey in management accounting, which is as fucking boring as it sounds, excuse my French. Um, and quickly diverted away from the corporate world because just the predictability of it scared the living daylights out of me. And I had this just clear trajectory paved in front of me by someone else. And I was like, but that's not what I want from my life.
Yeah.
So swiftly quit there, fell into recruitment as a lot of us do, spent 5 years in the same recruitment agency, and honestly had the best time there. I cannot fault that agency. But I think, as with a lot of top billers, you kind of get to a point where you're like, I'm giving over so much of myself here for not a lot in return. And during the
Yeah.
pandemic, we all had so much time, right, to just fester in our own thoughts. And I was really thinking about what I wanted from my life. And that wasn't working for someone else. So 6 months ago, I started my own little biotech baby called Moxie, and we only recruit for biotech and life sciences businesses in the USA that are specifically at around kind of Series B to Series C stage and nothing else. So
Yeah.
that's me.
I mean, that's such a good market. And I love how you defined it. At the end of the day, like I'm a big believer that niching can be a downfall for most recruiters if you don't know what you're doing in the space, or if your identity is so focused on something that might be even trendy or something like that. But I mean, with your life sciences, side of things, and specifically in medical devices, I just don't see it going anywhere. And even with where you're at in the specifics of it, it's still a growing space, and it's just not gonna be a place where you can bring in like junior talent and commoditize it in a way. Would you agree with that?
I agree. And I am actually more niche than life sciences and biotech. It is slightly smaller than that. But what I've kind of realized over the years is that I can be niche, but I also need to be open to the evolving technologies because, especially in
Hmm.
biotech, there can be a new drug or a company that just comes along and not only ruins that company and competitor, but an entire industry.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me because I started in diagnostics and had to quickly pivot. And I think that's the recruiters that get left behind are those that, yes, you need a niche, but you also need to know when it's right to, as hard as it is, step away from that niche.
You heard it here, guys. You need to know how to move away from bad markets fast. And you also need to know how to just identify the next one, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it. So what motivated you to focus specifically on the industry that you're in? What was your I know you have a really interesting story about this, so
Yeah. So I was like a 21-year-old, bushy eyed, clueless child, basically, and got sat down by my recruitment director on my first day. And they were like, "What market do you want to do?" And I was like, "Okay, weird flex. Like, why don't you have any suggestions for me? But sure, I'll do molecular diagnostics." And the director was like, "What the hell does that even mean?" But I am type 1 diabetic and have been for 23 years. And I've been using molecular diagnostics on my arm every single day for 23 years to stay alive. So my kind of thought process was, okay, I'm going to be a sick advocate, right? If I am a type 1 diabetic, even if it's the best recruiter in the world, like I'm going to be able to story tell and understand the trends and understand the USPs and also how it makes people feel when these technologies fail as a result of poor recruitment processes.
yeah.
And that was me. Um, and yeah, I think that's why I had quite an easy journey because I had a story, and that's kind of continued throughout my recruitment journey, I guess.
Yeah, we have the three circle belief here at Recruiting at Dynamite, and it's a part of our precision prospecting courses. Like when you're finding a market that you want to go after, it's this intersection between growth, your interests, and your network. And if you can find that little intersection between all those three things, you have a fantastic opportunity to make something happen. And that can be industry and it can be function, right? It can be like, oh, the roles that you work with, that's the network you have. The growth could be in the specific role that, even in another specific role or function of the space you want to focus on, and or an industry that has that you're very interested in, right? And so, like all those things kind of combined make a fantastic market for you to go
Mm.
after, and you found that, and that's really impressive. And I think one of the things that you've also done really well is you've created not just your story as a pivotal point for your business, but also your brand as an individual recruiter, and that's been such a big part of what you've done. But is there any pivotal moment that like really impacted your approach to the recruiting game and how you like decided to go on more of a branding effort and really engage on that storytelling point?
There have been so many pivotal moments, but I think the first one, and I'm kind of glad that I stumbled into this so early on in my recruitment journey. So my first placement, to my colleagues' dismay, was a chief commercial officer role in America with a base salary of like 380 grand, right? I'm 21. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't even know what like revenue means, let
Yeah.
alone how to find or hire a CCO in molecular diagnostics. And my agency at the time followed the very traditional model of 20% base, anything executive goes up to kind of 40%. And that's what I was told to do. But I noticed that behind the scenes, whether we were charging 20% or 40%, we were doing the exact same friggin' thing. Like
That's exactly it.
it
Yeah.
was the same process. And I am painfully empathetic. And I think that's hard sometimes in sales because I have that drive, but I also feel icky about taking things from people that I know I'm not adding enough value to take. And that's how
Mhm.
I felt charging 40% on that CCO hire. And in that moment on my eighth week, that was when I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be more value that we can add here. And I'm so glad that that situation happened to me because I don't think I'd be here with Moxie if it weren't for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably the most pivotal moment.
and with that, I mean, like that helped kind of shape how you do things at Moxie, and your approach to recruitment has been more value based now. Can you give a definition to like what you mean by being more value based then?
Right, so I need to preface this by saying I am not as value based right now in this moment as I would like to be, or as I was 6 months ago,
Yeah,
because I am a one woman band. I am Moxie, and there is only so much value I can
yeah,
add with these two hands. And I have a mortgage to pay, I have bills to pay, I have goals that I want to hit in order to grow Moxie and to get to the point of adding value. But I'm not there yet. So
yeah,
everything, I had a team of 7 who could help me to add
yeah.
value. But that would look like, so things that I do even now is creating marketing recruitment pages like websites, and I go into their labs, I record videos of the team, I record interviews with the CEO of the startup, and he tells the candidates about his story of building the business, so things like that. Yeah, there's loads of things I could tell you, but you're not going to steal all my secrets.
Oh, I'm stealing them. And again, like it comes back down to like this is the stuff that we did with A Talent, like because we were a big believer that the digital world is kind of where the future of recruiting was going to be. We wanted to make sure we had digital footprint for our clients. So we did very similar stuff. Like shout out to some of the clients that I've done that exact thing for. We created decks for them. We had the
Mm.
CEO and the VP of engineering jump on a quick interview, talk about it. And the funny thing was that every time I suggested it, like when I first started suggesting it, I was a little afraid, a little intimidated to do it. But like, are they gonna vibe with this? And then
Yeah.
almost like immediately they were like, yes, we've been thinking about that. That sounds awesome. Let's go. And one of my clients actually like got a full production because I was like, oh, I'll pay for it if you guys retain me. And they're like, no, we got it. We got it. Paid for this massive production. And it was a trucking company. I'll never forget this. And he ran out and he's like doing all these like, crazy like, interview type, commercial level conversations, and he gave me this like 1 minute clip of why people should work at his company, and I was like, this is awesome. And it slapped everybody that I sent that to. Like it was like, yeah, this guy sounds, he's got such high energy, he's super fun, and it was just like a great kind of culture, like cultural piece to what he did and he brought to the table, that people were like, it made it easier for me to actually sell the position. And the client loved it, and they
Mm.
continued to work with me on a retainer basis. So that's awesome. So what was the thing that developed your unique approach to the way that you message and convert? So like you've got, like I've seen your copy, and guys, I want to say this because Amber, you and I were talking about this in the pre-call. Like I don't think that there's a single recruiter out there that I've met that not just picked up what we talk about in recruiting with Dynamite so much, which is understanding the pains of your customer, presenting information that's valuable, being short, concise, and direct, and at the same time having this like ability to lead people down the value journey in your emails and your messaging, like Amber has. And she, on top of that, does the content game. And on top of that, creates the value piece. And so like I'm just so enamored, and just I want to applaud you because you are someone that did this on their own, right? Like you figured this out and you took some risk. How did you get there? Like how did you figure this out? Like I want to know, because like people spend years trying to figure out the kind of copy you bring to the table.
I give all thanks to the frigging pandemic and having just so much time to. This was the first period where life slowed down and I could really develop myself and think about what areas I weren't so good at. And in that moment, I recognized that recruitment marketing was a real big gap. And so I spent so long during the pandemic reading every single book about copywriting and marketing and recruitment, listening to every single podcast, reaching out to B2B SaaS VPs of sales on LinkedIn and organizing coffee chats
Yeah.
with them to figure out what they were doing. Because another thing I recognized as soon as I entered recruitment, it was the same as finance and accounting. everything is so outdated, and it's like
Yeah.
this, oh, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it
No,
kind of
fix it.
vibe.
Oh God,
But
please.
yes, it's not broke, but it's not working well. And have you seen how many agencies have closed down this year? And it's
Yeah.
because they're not adding value beyond swapping CVs. And I could see that that was going to happen. And I thought, if I don't do something about this and better my skills beyond being able to just find someone on LinkedIn Recruiter, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done. And I'd already pivoted careers, so I kind of felt like it's now or never. But yeah, where did I develop it? God, it's been such an amalgamation of so many learnings and A/B testing and following the data and using cool platforms and AI tools that I didn't even know existed before I
Yep.
started Moxie, and just doing everything with intention, like not specking out candidates just for the sake of hitting a KPI that your scary boss has put on your back. Like actually thinking, why am I reaching out to this person right now? What hypothesis can I come up with based upon my knowledge that I already have about the experiences and struggles that they might be facing? And how can I fix that? And how have I done it for other people? Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's. I mean, I'm praising the hell out of you on this one because like it's just so impressive because that's how I that's it's a I love talking to people that are what do we call ourselves, the Pisces peacocks, like that
Yeah.
understand, like, so yeah, like I'm a Pisces and she's a Pisces guy, so like, one of my friends told me that I was a Pisces peacock one time, and so it really kind of like the ability for someone to really like look at other markets and say, hey,
Mhm.
what are other companies doing? What's the other modern way of like going out to market? What's some books I can read on sales and marketing that's going to make this go better? What, like, there's some fantastic books on virality
Yeah.
and people in psychology, and I think those parts are such a big part of what we do, and it should be kind of, I feel like, baseline knowledge for anybody jumping into this space, because we are, at the end of the day, marketers and salespeople. Like that's what we do. We
Mm.
sell and market candidates. We sell and market our business. So you need to just get really good at it and figure it
Mm.
out and start testing, and don't be afraid to try things out. The worst thing that's going to happen is a no, right? Like the worst thing that happens is, yeah, I'm not interested. But hey, look, you can always come back 6 months later and try the next thing that you did that did work, right? And they're not going to remember most of the time. But I just
Yeah.
want to
And
give you guys. Sorry, go on.
sorry, one last thing. Recruitment as an industry feels so secretive and
Yeah.
competitive as well. And I just got to a point where I was like, no one wants to freaking help me here. Like, no one wants to share their
Yes.
secrets. I'm so willing and happy and do this daily to send my templates to recruiters that are struggling. But no one else in the industry wanted to do that for me. So I was like, screw this. I'm going to B2B SaaS. See you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing too, because like that's why we started Boom Lab and why we
Yeah.
started recruiting with Dynamite in general, was that everybody's so secretive about like what they're doing. And most of the stuff that you're doing is outdated anyway.
And
And
it's all the same.
it's
Everything
all
is
the
a
same.
cookie cutter. It's so boring, and these CEOs are receiving 400 emails a day. Do you really think they're going to respond to, "Dear John, I hope that you are well. I have the biggest database in the world." Blah blah blah. Like, no.
And we use AI and we have this great process, the process.
The
It's so
process.
fancy. So
Scaling
like
the process.
scaling the process, we have this amazing process, guys. It's just you're absolutely right. It's outdated. It's falling flat. You end up going after customers that just end up who do accept it, right? Who do want it. They're not the best clients at the end of the day. You're not targeted. You don't have intention. And people are wondering why, like, they're failing. I just talked to, as an example, like, and I truly believe that this year was a very challenging year for almost
Mhm.
everyone. No
Yeah,
doubt.
let's not sugarcoat it. I've
Let's
found
not
it
sugar it.
so much harder this year than every previous year, back to 2017. It's
Yep.
been rough.
It's
Like, it
been rough.
has.
But to say that there's not been business is
Yeah,
just out of it's just out of touch, because
it's an
there
excuse.
is it's an excuse, exactly. And a lot, and almost like 80, I think that there's a stat that came out recently that was like 80% of recruiters are struggling right now, and it's because you're approaching the market the same way that you did in 2020, 21. And you need to like really really evaluate how you go to market and the messaging you're putting out. And I just want to share with you guys like this, because Amber was so gracious to give me some of her content. And so if you guys want these templates, join the Boom Lab. And I'm going to have a kind of challenge at the end of this that allows you guys to get access to Amber's stuff. She'll share it with you too if you don't want to use me, but like you can go on there and we're going to work together to build out your own versions of this, your own storytelling, your own stuff as a collective. And so I want to challenge you guys to do that. So join the Boom Lab and do it. But I'm going to read this to you. So Amber, give us the background on this Greek spa situation,
Oh.
like the Greek spa logic.
Also, this is going to sound like such a fluky email, and I wish I had access to my old agency inbox, but this happens so much more than I would like to admit. So, there was this CEO of this company that I have admired for years, and I become very obsessive. And I think that's because I have a personal connection to medical. I just become obsessed with technologies and their potential capabilities. And this was one of them. But this guy did not want to speak to me. I'm pretty sure he told me to politely F off on the phone back in 2019 as well. Like I had
Wow.
multi-channeled until the cows came home. However, one day I'd been stalking him on LinkedIn and he uploaded this photo, and it was like him taking the mick out of being at a Greek spa. And one of the options on the health form was hasn't had sun exposure for the past month. And the premise of this post was just taking the piss out of that. Like, obviously, you've had sun exposure, you're in a Greek spa in July, like, duh. And anyway, the day before, I had interviewed a chief data officer, and I always discuss with my candidates, like, who is your dream five? Who do you really, really admire? And this company was one of them. So I thought, oh, I'm going to try and like send this guy over and mention this Greek spa thing somehow. So I titled, or do you want to go into this? Well, actually, you can read it
Yeah,
out.
no. So she titles this thing Greek spa logic. And I'm going to read this thing off to you. So, hi, Thomas. After one too many empty promises from the current employer, the chief data officer based in the Bay Area is looking for a new position. Following their PhD from MIT and leadership roles at Top Genomics, and I'm not going to be able to say
Proteomics.
proteomics.
There
So
you go. You got
there you
it.
go. Thank you. Players such as X company, Y company, they're looking for a new home. Opposed to reviewing the resume following his permission. P.S. He has a little more logic than the Greek spot. So I freaking love this message because of the one-to-one aspect of it. Will Allred was on Live Dynamite events 3 weeks ago, and he would like roll over on this. He would be like, "This is freaking amazing." Yes, because it just reads from one, like it reads so well. It's one sentence leads to the next, to the next, to the next. It shows that it's personal. You did your research. You know who they are. Like you know the space. You're bringing an NPC again. I will say this over and over again. NPC marketing and specking candidates is still the number one way to market candidates or to get
Agreed.
business because it's just the way it is, and people want to fill a role. You can always sell on your service or how on the other ends of things like the fractional sides after you get them on the phone, but bring them in with the thing that they want right away, right? So which is a candidate at the end of the day. So and you
Also,
just
the
did such a
length of
good
that email is
the
so
length.
important. Like, I
Yeah.
knew that this was a CEO, and I knew that he was probably online as well because he'd literally posted this thing on LinkedIn 3 minutes before. Annoyingly, he had never accepted me, so I couldn't send it on LinkedIn. But loads of white space, really simple, just to the
Yeah.
point. Like CEOs, and even me, since starting Moxie, right, you receive so many messages from companies
Yeah.
wanting to work with you, and I'm sure you do as well, Will.
Yep.
And if I see a block of long text, I'm a busy lady. I'm just going to delete that. Like, I don't care what you've got to say or what you're going to bring to me.
Exactly.
Like, just tell me what you want, show me that you know me, and on you go.
It's like I think it's like something like 60 words too. Every word except for the
Yeah.
words I couldn't pronounce were were easy to read. And and it showed that you did the research and you knew. And I want you to want to read what his response was. Ha ha ha. love your email. So, yep, let's do it. And at the end of the day, this guy gave her a hell yeah versus a, oh, okay, fine, like send him over. On top of that, she didn't promise anything opposed to reviewing the resume following his permission. So, like, it's a really simple ask. Like, A, I'm going to go ask the candidate before I send him over. But B, like, yeah, like, you're not being a creep about it, right? You're not sending somebody's resume without their permission. You're showing that you have respect for your candidate, but also at this CEO level, what you're talking about is, hey, this guy's going to bring crazy impact to your team, and that's going to, and for a CEO, they're thinking strategically. Like, this person's a PhD MIT grad with his competitors on his list. Yeah, he wants to talk to that guy
And
because
I knew
that
that this
person's going to add
company,
massive value.
sorry, Will. I
Go
knew
ahead.
that this company were university snobs. As much as I disagree with that, my DE and I insides are crying. I knew that about him.
Yeah.
So that helped as well. And that amounted in a 108 grand fee just from that one email. So, like, if I can do it, you can do
Hold
it.
on, hold
It's
on.
really
108 grand. 108,000, guys. Like 80K.
That
It was
was
like
the
80,000
stupidest
pounds.
108 grand that guy has ever spent, but they have now ended up being an amazing client. And I went on and placed about 18 people with them in a year. So it was fab. That was one of the best examples I've got to hand.
That's huge. What about your follow up? Are you doing any follow up on top of that?
Oh, yeah, I'm the follow up queen. I think the majority of my cadences have 9 steps. But each step won't just be an email. There'll be a variety of videos and calls and emails and turning up at their house, whatever I need to
whoa,
do.
whoa, 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 whoa,
Girls got to do
whoa,
what
Amber.
girls got to do, Will. Hello.
Got-
I sent you an email yesterday. Imagine.
just on their like little prompter or whatever it is.
On the little
That's
ring doorbell, just like,
yeah.
yoo-hoo, it's me.
I brought a Christmas present. You were like dressed up like an elf, like you just like.
In this with my light up,
Oh
bloody
God.
lights on, with a resume in my hand and some business cards.
God, I love this, man.
Uh,
Amber, you make this job so much fun. So
Yeah,
so
that's what I
kudos to you.
wanted though. I just felt like recruitment was so dry in the sense of like what I was doing every day. And
Mm,
I just thought there's got to be a funner, more creative, like
yeah,
humanized way of doing this.
yeah.
And there was. So, yeah.
And I mean, like it's funny because like that's a big value of ours. If it's not fun, don't do it.
Hmm.
It's an I should say it's an aspirational value of ours because we're not really there yet. We have to do a lot of the unfun stuff, but it does require, you know, at the end of the day, you have to have fun with what you're doing, but you also have to have the tenacity to push through the unfun moments. Like,
Hmm.
even like, we're going. If I'm being completely transparent, like we're going through an unfun moment right now, and it's like those unfun moments are just not a lot of like they can be the thing that drowns you out, and it's the valley of despair is what we call it, and you just
Hmm. I
got to
like
get
that.
through it. And some of the times that valley of despair, like it's the reason why people jump from one strategy to the next so quickly, and you just got to stick with your guns a little bit but also be flexible on how you approach it, right? So if you know for a fact that there's growth, that there's interest, that you've done all these things, and it comes back down to like even your market. Like, what I love about your story too is that your market isn't that big and you're crushing it in it. And I think I did the research on Omni. What is it? Is it multiomics?
Multi-omics. Yeah, you
Multiomics,
got
right?
it.
So I did the research on it, and I was like, I want to see what industry, how big this space is. It's like a 2.8 million or billion-dollar industry. It's not a very sizable industry, but it's growing and it's doing stuff. So when people come to me and tell me like, "Oh, my market's not big enough," is it your market not big enough, or are we not? Did you exhaust it? Did you reach out to literally every company you possibly could and found the best NPCs you possibly could for them? And did you go through the valley of despair for long enough? And the answer is 90% of the time, no. But that's me. one last question before we get into your lesson. What like so you talked about your books, mentors, you took the time to really start to learn and develop your skill set as a marketer. What's some of the biggest what's some podcasts, some books, what's some resources people could go and start learning some of the things that got you to the extraordinary point that you are?
Um, there's one called Copywriting Secrets, a book that just like changed my perspective to writing emails. That's really good. I don't know who that's by, but also listening to like marketing podcasts in your market, that's
Yep.
really helped me. So like I read one, watch, listen to, God, I'll get there in the end. I listened to one called The Read Out Loud, which is great. And then there's another one that I got invited on even the other day, which was crazy because I'm like, I don't have any biotech or marketing background, but sure, I'll do it. But looking for
That's
industry
called near-bound marketing, guys. Like if you want to talk about what she just talked about, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but that's a near-bound thing.
what
That's,
does that
hey, I
mean?
found an influencer, I found an event in my space, and I can help promote them or continue to do stuff with them, and then they will in turn help boost my brand. So, sorry, go on.
Okay. No, that's fab. And then before I started Moxie, something that's helped me a lot is reading books about how to start a life sciences business, like how to start a life sciences startup, because the nuances of all aspects in turn affect recruitment. Like recruitment is the central. Like, for example, when I was doing marketing work when I was 15 years old for a medical devices company in Amsterdam, they couldn't bring their product to market because they couldn't find a VP of business development because they were bloody based in the middle of nowhere in Amsterdam. And that then meant that the business closed down. So that's been great. All the classic recruitment podcasts, you know, Recruitment Mentors, Hoxo, Recruiting Better with Ben Browning. There are
Live
hundreds.
Dynamite events.
Live Dynamite events, obviously, that's a no-brainer. I'm not gonna market your podcast on this, Will. God. And
Shameless. I'm shameless. Yeah.
networking, just trying to meet people and not networking with the goal of having an outcome, but just to be frigging curious. Like, I actually
Mhm.
care about people's stories, what got them into science, what technologies are freaking them out at the minute because it's potentially going to take over all of the research that they've been spending 10 years doing. Just
Yeah.
being curious, just
Yeah.
wanting to learn, being a sponge.
You did something that I hadn't even done. And by the way, the guy the author is Jim Edwards. He's actually from ClickFunnels, who is like the Russell
Ah.
Brunson. That's where a lot of my marketing skills came from. I think ClickFunnels now is a little
Outdated.
too
Yeah, I
outdated
did
now.
read
But
this a while back. There's one by a guy called Nicholas Cole as well, and I've joined
Nicholas Cole's
his.
great.
I
Yeah,
love him. I'm obsessed.
yeah,
I've joined his AI. I'm obsessed with fiddling with ChatGPT as well.
yep.
But yeah,
It's and
he's
again,
fab.
it's not the main thing you're using, but it's the thing that you're using to help you be better at what you're doing. And I think what you did is that's very different than I think what most recruiters do is, hey, what does it take to start? You literally researched on what does it take to start a life sciences business. Like you understand your market better than probably your own market. Like you
Someone,
understand
yeah, a
them.
CEO of a genomics company literally on Tuesday said to me, he was like, you could be a business analyst in our market. Like, you just seem to have such a fountain of knowledge and like a brain just full of gossip because people feel comfortable with you and willing to be
Hmm.
open about what's been really shitty in the market. Because biotech is on its arse this year. It really
Yeah,
is. But yeah,
and you're still winning in it. So that's that. All right, let's
trying.
get into your lesson. Storytelling. What's the most important lesson you've learned in creating effective recruiting messaging? Let's start with that. Like, what is that lesson for you?
Talk to one singular person. It's so simple, but talk to one singular person. And also, typing and writing in the way that I speak has helped me a lot to build my brand and to seem more human. And don't get me wrong, I don't like hit record, speak, and then send that email. I'll fiddle with it, sure, but it just makes what I'm saying more authentic, I think. So that's been a really big learning. Yeah.
I love it. How do you suggest recruiters improve their engagement rates when it comes to building stronger connections on LinkedIn? Like you have a phenomenal engagement rate? How do they do it?
Solve the problems on LinkedIn for the ICP or ICA, ideal customer audience, that you dream of. So like I record on AI all of my calls, and at the end of the week I kind of think about or look back on, okay, what have people been struggling with this week? What keeps coming up? What are the common trends and themes here? And then what can I post on LinkedIn the next week that can either help them to solve that problem, that can either tell a story of me helping someone to solve that problem, or yeah, just something along those lines. Because I definitely made the mistake about 2 years ago when I started during the pandemic, and I see a lot of recruiters doing this, and I'm not necessarily sure why, but we write content for other recruiters, we don't write it for our clients. Like, what is that about? But I did that as well because I was copying everyone else, right?
I'm gonna have a whole series, guys. Like I was just talking to Christina about this. It's like my next series is gonna be a monthly reminder that's gonna have, you know, me saying in the most creative way possible, stop making content for recruiters. Stop making content for recruiters. Because guess what? They're not your audience.
No,
They're my
I
audience. You can make I can make recruiting content because they're I want you guys to be looking at my stuff. And guess what? I'm solving your problems. And so like I'm trying to help solve your problems. I'm not solving your problems. You solve your own problems. But I'm trying to help solve your problems, right? I'm trying to give you insights. I'm trying to give you people like Amber on here and give you the stuff, right? So the business. And it's your daily stuff. So just before we even go further, because I'm so happy you said this. We didn't plan this, guys. I didn't know that she was going to say that. So I have to ask you, what's your thoughts on people writing about the job posting the job experience or the job search experience and the candidate search experience constantly?
What do you mean, right? What do you mean? Tell me more.
So the I think the thing that I have to push out of people's heads a lot of times is
Yeah.
like the most people are not in a job search. Most people that you're targeting are not looking for candidates. So why are we writing about that all the time? The fact is like they're dealing with specific problems that are in their industry, that they're day-to-day stuff, and you can help them and guide them and create a viewpoint. If you want to bring in the recruiter perspective, that's fine. But at the end of the day, like it's not just job searching. It's not just candidate searching.
Yeah, and I think it's hard. Like, so for example, one post that I did a couple of months ago that worked well was writing about when CEOs of biotechs hire a chief commercial officer too early. Someone read that, was like, okay, that's not me, but we actually need to hire a CCO now. Can you talk next week? Um, so just thinking, like I said, think about, we are knowledge bombs. Like, we literally sit on Zoom calls and at conferences for hours and hours and hours every week, and you are filled with the challenges
Yeah.
and the problems that your ICP is facing. So post about them, and
Yep.
post about what you're doing at your agency, especially if you are a founder. Like, talk about building in public. Do something that's going to, number one, remind people of what your business is and what the value you add is, but also allows them to know what kind of person you are. Because I'm kind of like in the middle of the two camps. You have one side that are very much like, people only buy from people they like, and then you have the other side that's like, people only buy from people with the best problem solver, and I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I think
Well, it's
there can
both.
be a nice
It's
happy
it's it's
medium.
freaking both. I could like you. I like a lot of my finance. I like a lot of my friends, and a lot of my friends happen to be finance people. It doesn't mean I'm going to go use them to be my financial advisor, even though one of them is. But it's because he's good at his job, right? So it's like at the end of the day, like you gotta have that mix of both. You got to bring the value,
And
and you also be
yeah,
likable.
one thing that I think we don't realize as recruiters is like, a lot of the knowledge to us seems really basic. And I will
Yeah,
often do a LinkedIn post about recruitment marketing in biotech, or just bettering hiring processes. And to
sure.
me, it's the most obvious freaking thing ever. But then the engagement and the response and the doors that it opens is crazy. So if you feel like you don't have anything to write about, trust me, you definitely do. Just start
Yeah,
writing about your conversations, and that's a good place to start, I think.
and I think that's a good point too. Is I was just consulting one of my clients in. in their content game was like, I was like, instead of trying to figure out like if this is going to go viral, start thinking about who, what, why, where, and when, and how you can tell that story, or what's something that you learned today that's really intriguing, that you predict in the market based on what you're seeing. Like you can have these conversations and on a social level, and it's enticing. Just create a good hook, figure out the storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and get really good at writing, and talk about the problems that these people are having. Again, you can have the recruiter twist. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine, but it's not every day that it's all about, oh, like pay people what they're worth or whatever, because that's good content, but that's just like that's clickbaity, right? It's the thing that everybody agrees with, but if you're actually helping the audience that you're trying to serve, give better stories. And to your point, you're speaking to these people literally daily. What problems are you having? Why is this role open right now? That's a good question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
you can, when you figure out why the role's open, you can write content about why those roles are open, right?
Yeah.
And the problems that they're facing because it's open or because it's not filled, and what they need to do. And so now you have content. It's simple. Make it very, very simple. So,
You made a
um,
comment about virality as well, and I definitely made the mistake about 2 years ago of chasing that and chasing the likes and chasing the
yeah,
vanity metrics, as embarrassing as that is to admit. But I think that's partly because I just didn't know what I was trying to achieve as a result of my content. And
yeah,
yes, my likes have considerably dropped. Yes, my comments have considerably dropped, but the people I want to be in my inbox has shot up.
I mean, this leads us into my next question is like, what advice would you give to people as they start to refine this strategy and approach, that this storytelling, this conversational piece, this like, um, this problem solving, value driven journey that you're on right now?
What advice would I? Sorry, what was the question?
What advice would you give to recruiters who are trying to mimic you right now?
Trying to mimic me. Oh, have a global pandemic and have 2 years to just sit in your living room and not do anything but work on yourself. But besides that, don't think that's very practical, Amber. Um, I know I've said it already, but honestly speaking, how I type, typing as I speak has literally changed everything. And also just being vulnerable and remembering that I don't need to be this corporate robot that my boss and everyone tells me that people in biotech and finance and legal are receptive to. I can be vulnerable and I can be direct and I can be honest, but also professional and empathetic at the same time. Um, so just not succumbing to this like corporate bullshit way of emailing and speaking to people, and just remembering that we all like pick our nose and drop our toast jammed side down and get really annoyed, and like we all have issues and struggles, and we just want to be helped and guided in the right direction.
That's it.
So
That's
yeah, that was
that's
really
a good one.
wishy-washy, but
No, I mean it's true. It's just making it, being human. That's a big part of what we teach is just be freaking human. Like it's not
yeah,
that difficult. I know for some of us it might be.
it's
Some of
vulnerable,
us.
right? It opens you up to people not judging this corporate persona but actually judging you. And I think that's quite scary. And that's why a lot of us are scared to post on LinkedIn, because you're opening your thoughts up to the world, which is scary. It's a lot of potential judgment.
That's it. That's it.
Mm.
How important is like the community building and networking part of your strategy? Like, what is that all about?
Ooh, it's become, well, it was everything before, but even more so now since Moxie, because number one, I started with a nasty non-compete and almost felt like I was Amber at 2021 again. Sorry, when I was 21 again. Um, so it's become everything. But again, not going into networking calls with the thought of I'm going to have a signed contract and retainer and send over my PayPal details after this call. I just want to get to know this person. Do they think there's anyone in their network that they really think I should meet? Um, and yeah, just trying to build friendships. I know, again, it sounds really wishy-washy and Pisces of me, but it serves you well. And people can
I
see through the bullshit and trying to network for a purpose, can't they? They can see
Yeah.
straight through it. I have.
Yeah, so to comment on the virality piece and that part that you're talking about, because it's a combination point before we let you go, because I know you're probably busy, but the there's a recruiters out there that have virality, right? And they're posting a lot of stuff that you might see, like they've got 3,000 or 300 people liking it. And the reality is that a lot of those people are using tools like pods and other means to push up and amplify that voice or that virality look. And they're not being like truly genuine to you. So, A, don't base your content game on trying to go viral. Base your content game on trying to be useful and have a way of communicating it in the best way possible that people are going to receive it and want to share it and talk about it. Okay. So that has nothing to do with virality. That has everything to do with being useful. Um, and I mention that because one of the people that I'm talking about has reached out, or I posted something about the fact that nobody wants to be pitched immediately after meeting you.
Mhm.
And their immediate response is, I'm not trying to be friends with people. Get to the point already. And I literally go, so you'd rather just pitch everyone? Like, you're like, this doesn't make any sense, right? um that is a part of the problem, right? It's that this idea that like you have to be fast and to the point, and no one, I'm not, you don't have to be friends with people at the end of the day. Like, that's Amber and Mai's perspective, is try and be as friendly as possible. But you also have to be someone who's just human at the end of the day, at the end of that line, that's not just looking to get something from them, but also just trying to serve them. Like, I look at how we sell as, I'm offering you something. I
Mhm.
have gold. Do you want it? And I want to give it to you because I really genuinely want you to be rich. Right. And so that's a different perspective, and it brings people to the table a lot easier. It's a lot more fun, and it drops people's guards. So that's my final statement. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, and I think once you start doing networking calls, you kind of get the vibe. Like, so for example, mine typically, and this isn't because I've set an agenda or anything, I don't go to a networking call with a bloody like 5 minutes of this, 10 minutes of this, but they naturally follow the path of 20 minutes of just getting to know each other as people and through your careers, what brought you there. And then 10 minutes of, okay, this is how I might be able to help you. And this is how I might be able to help you. It's that simple. And when I am
Mhm.
preparing for any networking calls, I will think about, okay, who might I be able to introduce this person to, and what could they potentially do for me? It's a give and take, and it should be that in equal
Absolutely.
parts.
Absolutely. Do you have a time for one question?
Yeah, I don't have a call till 7 p.m. my time, unfortunately. I'm going till 10 tonight, so fire
You
away.
gotta put that work in.
Yeah.
All right. So the last question is, what AI tools are you using for your calls to analyze them?
There are loads and they're all free. So I'm not going to lie, for the first like 4 months, I just did the 4 free 30-day trials. So you should do that too and figure out which one works for you. I personally like Fireflies because you can, yeah, and you can record the videos as well. And something I do with my clients during our like job intake calls is we'll establish 3 to 4 predetermined questions. Then for my pre-screening with the candidates, I'll send the video recordings of their answers as part of my candidate notes. So not only is it good for me to review my calls, figure out what I've been doing wrong in my discovery calls or right that week, but it's also great for candidates. And like, I have ADHD brain, so just everything needs to be written down and documented for the rest of time, or I will forget.
You ADHD Pisces peacock. Uh,
Are you a fellow ADHDer as well?
I'm a fellow neurodivergent. My wife hates me for it sometimes,
Same.
for sure. But she loves me for my creativity. And it's like, it's a hard thing, man. Like, it's that's tough. So
Yeah.
I'm all about the fireflies. Another one, if you guys want to use specifically, that's for recruiters, is MetaView.
Ooh.
Check out MetaView. MetaView is awesome. It's a little bit higher in price, but like there's cool stuff on there. You can add scorecard assessments and stuff like that. That allows you to record even your interviewer's conversation. So the VP of engineering or whatever it might be, they can take on the MetaView without adding on a new license, and then you can actually look at, did they ask the questions properly? Was there a moment in the conversation that switched things? And so MetaView is a really great product specific for recruiters. So Amber, how do people get a hold of you, man?
Turn up at my door with a Christmas jumper on, or add me on LinkedIn. That's probably
Don't
less
tempt
illegal.
people. Don't tempt me. I'll show up with Kaya and it'll be like, hey, we're here for
We're
the
here.
Christmas party. We got the
You
eggnog. We going?
You
What are we
said
doing?
it.
Well, again, Amber, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. The community is smarter for and more enlightened for your time and your willingness to give us the knowledge that you have, and sharing your experience. I'm definitely gonna have to have you on again. We just got to bring you on. So we'll figure something out next year. Obviously, you're busy, you're crushing it in your new venture. So blessings to you, blessings to everybody. Merry Christmas. We have the next live Dynamite event is coming next Thursday, no Tuesday this time. We have Natalie Stones from the Talent Collective coming on. Really excited about her. She's going to be talking about TA and communities in that space and how to build them and how to serve your community at large. And then we have lastly, to end the year off, Jen Allen Knuth. Jen
Do
Allen is,
you?
I'm freaking stoked. Like,
Oh my
guys,
God, how did you manage that? Wow, love that. I'm
networking,
coming to that
networking.
one.
Oh man, Jen Allen. I mean, guys, if you don't know who Jen Allen is, you need to
Get
go
to know.
find her. And she brings the house down when it comes to like just sales, SDR, stakeholder management, moving a deal forward, talking about awareness journeys. I talk about awareness journeys all the time. She calls it the cost of inaction. She's going to bring some heat that I'm really excited about. So if you guys want me to ask Jen Allen any specific questions, reach out to me, ping me, join the Boom Lab, and we'll get you started. But have a great rest of the week. Finish the week off strong. Finish the month off strong. And let's get ready for Q1, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.